Hey y'all, I want to talk about Love Too Easily. This is an FMV Korean style romance game, visual novel sort of based game. Basically, there's, a lot of these games are coming out now that are kind of romance sims. As y'all know, I played 10 Dates a long time ago, and this is that similar vein. I know there's been a lot of like Korean, Japanese sort of romance FMVs that have been popping up last couple of years. That seems to be a genre that's become more popular recently. A lot of people like streaming these type of games, and I've never really played a game like that before. So I was curious to see, oh, what's it like playing this game that's, a Korean style experience. I was going into it, especially with the title of the game, I was expecting it to be a sort of romance love, I have to pick who I want to be with sort of thing. And then there is an element to that, but it's a little bit different than I thought it was going to be. It's actually more of you trying to figure out what happened sort of scenario. So you're playing this girl, Yeonwoo, and she doesn't remember what happened the night before because she got too drunk. And that's kind of the what starts the story. And that's not what I was expecting going into this, because, most of these kind of games, you're a guy, you're trying to pick the right girl, but no, you play the girl, she's had a, rough night, she kissed somebody, and she doesn't know who it is. And that's the catalyst for what this game's story is. And basically, the game is you trying to figure out who of her friends that she kissed, or maybe was it somebody else that you haven't seen before kissed her, and you're trying to figure all this out. And as you play through the game, you get to meet your group of friends. There's 3 guys who are like the 3 potential love interests, and then there's this girl who's her best friend, and the character you're playing, she's just trying to kind of poke everybody's buttons a little bit, trying to get some information of what happened, because everybody else who was kind of sort of there remembers except her, but they're very kind of quiet about it, or whoever kissed her was also like not, one to come forth with it. So everybody's been real shady about it. And she's like, why y'all so shady? What's going on? And as you play the game, it is a, FMV style experience in terms of there'll be times where you pick and choose what you want to happen in particular order. Like there's a scene where she has to talk to each of the guys. You can pick which guy you want to talk to first. You'll eventually talk to all of them. It's up to you. And then there's options in terms of how you want her to react to it. You want her to be more goofy, more intimidating, and that determines the outcome of what happens in the game. Now, there is some actual game style into it. It reminds me of like playing like a PC game in the 90s as like a kid. Like if you were a girl playing like a Barbie game on the PC and it had a bunch of little mini games, it kind of reminds me of that. Like there'd be a game where I have to dress her up before she went out. There was one where I had to figure out, okay, here's how do I get out of this place that I'm locked in sort of thing. And I like that, it's these nice, simple little games. I haven't played a game myself that had these kind of mini games in it for a very long time, so in that way it was refreshing. However, I played this on the PS5. This originally came out on PC a while ago, and now it's available on the next-gen console. And I could definitely feel this game was made for PC and mouse more than a controller. A lot of these mini games, you're using a mouse. The main menu of the game, you are using a mouse. You're using the right analog stick and the placement of a mouse. So sometimes, when that happens in games, it doesn't feel quite great. And that's the case here. When I'm playing a few of the mini games or navigating the menus, I feel like the weight of the mouse dragging as I use the right stick. And I'm just like, oh, I kind of wish I was using a mouse for this. This doesn't feel good. Sometimes you're click and dragging stuff and just doing that on the controller. With a game like this, there's multiple outcomes, there's multiple endings. I played through the whole game one time, and I think I got like the most like simple, basic ending you could possibly get. Of course, that would happen to me. And y'all know me, I don't play games multiple times. I usually stick with whatever ending I got. But I gave this another playthrough. I played it through again, pretty much almost from the beginning. and I made somewhat different choices, and then I got a completely different outcome than I did the first time. And with these kind of games, at least this one in particular, it shows you how many outcomes there possibly are, how many mini games there are that you have played or haven't played, so you can keep track of all that stuff. So if you really want incentive to kind of lock everything, it kind of tells you that. And then once you beat the game once, you can go back and choose from any starting point to where there's a decision to be made to start the game from. So you don't necessarily have to start at the beginning every time. But if you're like, oh, I want to start like partway through the game when I made this decision, then you can go from there. And the game will tell you you can kind of skip through some of the stuff that you went through, but I found that when I started playing it, that it allowed me to do it once on the first scene, but then I couldn't skip through the cutscene after that. I don't know if there was a glitch issue. I don't know if I was just starting to do it wrong for some reason, but I had to watch multiple scenes I've seen before again. And you know, that gets a little bit tiring, and you know, you don't want to do that too many times. I could maybe play this game one more time through sometime down the road, but after playing it through twice, I was like, I'm good. I don't want to rewatch some of these scenes again. And the problem with this kind of game, at least with this one, is that there's a lot of awkward moments in it, which kind of fits the Korean, you know, because like the K-dramas and stuff, I like watching those and stuff. And they have a lot of awkward moments when it comes to like romance and things like that, but sometimes there's awkward pauses like between the end of the scene and then when you get to a point to make a choice, there'll be like a couple seconds of a pause before like the decision you make starts to happen in the scene. Sometimes the camera of the scene completely shifts and stuff too while you're making the decision. So it takes you out of it quite a bit in that sense. So everything doesn't line up perfectly or mesh perfectly well. It just feels like a series of scenes that are kind of stitched together. And because of that, the experience kind of got ruined for me a little bit. Now, while I will say, at least with this PS5 edition, there is some extra features, which was nice. They had features of interviews with like most of the main characters, like all the male leads. They had behind the scenes of the friend character and then the main actress that you're guiding through this experience. It goes to an interview with her. And some of these are like lengthy interviews. Some of them are kind of silly, cutesy, but I appreciated that they had these longer interviews. I appreciate that they actually had videos showing behind the scenes of how they made some of the stuff. That was probably the part I enjoyed the most out of this whole experience, is just seeing all those elements. And, you know, and hearing the actors talk about how they were similar to characters or different and things of that sort. You know, the main actress, you know, outside of the game is, you know, charming personality and talks about how different she is from that character she's playing in the game. So all I thought that was really cool. And as somebody who didn't see a lot of the endings, I got to see tips and like, you know, little glimpses of scenes that I hadn't seen before. So I felt like I was getting some of that experience without having to play through the whole game again. So if you do decide to get this game, I highly recommend checking out the extra content with all the behind the scenes stuff. I think that's worth checking into if you're really enjoying this game. But as far as like romantic FMV games go, it's hard to say because this one's a little bit different from the others. It was fun to play once or twice. Doesn't take too long to get through. It takes like an hour or two, if that, depending on how you play it. I appreciate too with the main games you are able to skip it if you wanted to, so that takes some frustration out of it. But you know, as a game, it's okay. It's an okay sort of experience. Runs on the PS5 well, but like I said, I would probably suggest getting a PC to use a mouse and keyboard, really, to navigate through all the in-between stuff, especially with the mini games. I feel like you'll have a better experience there than using a controller, which is something I rarely ever say. So, you know, take that what you will with that. Yeah, so it's out now. If you like the romance stuff and want something a little bit different in terms of story instead of a typical guy trying to find a girl, if you want a kind of a different perspective on things, you know, it's worth checking out for an hour or two, but it's not a game that's gonna be for everybody. It's not a game this isn't game. Love Too Easily isn't necessarily a game I'll recommend for anybody to play. It's not a must play. It's, you know, if you have been playing a lot of the dating sim FMV games, you want something that has like a different sort of take on it, it might be worth playing through. But Otherwise, yeah, you know, you might just want to spend your time playing some other cool stuff that's out there, playing at some better FMV games that are out there that are a little bit more unique and different.